Hello, welcome back to the Winning Agenda. My name's Jesse Muehlman-Marshall. Hope you've been enjoying our coverage of the Sorcery Alpha launch. We've looked through the Battle Mage deck, and now it's time to do the Deathspeaker. Let's get straight into it. So here is finally, in person, the Deathspeaker deck list, which you will have seen me play if you've been watching our deck tech and our coverage from the top 16 of Season 2 of the Sorcery League. For those of you who haven't been following along and are just getting into Sorcery Alpha or are just sort of new to the game, the Sorcery League is run online. I'll put a link in the description. It's an online tabletop simulator league, and it's a great way to get to know the metagame, some competitive decks, and just really have a chance to play Sorcery against other people who are passionate about the game. So this is one of the decks that I've been playing, and gee, it's great to have the cards in hand. I mean, Onyx Core, Philosopher's Stone, this beautiful Ruby Core foil, which I'll take a look at in a minute, Amethyst Core. Seeing all these cards like laid out together like this is just fantastic. I'll run you through some of the key cards. We've got the full deck tech, so we don't need to do absolutely everything in this video, but I'll run you through some of the key cards and synergies, and then you can go check out the full deck tech if you haven't already watched it, and we'll take a look at some of the foils that I've luckily managed to pick up so far early on in my collecting journey, but I have been quite aggressively trading for these things. So a lot of people are trying to fill out full foil sets, which is great. And what that's allowed me to do locally, and with some international trades as well, is to trade off some of my spare foils or some foils that I'm not planning on playing in my decks for some foils that I am planning on playing. I was also lucky enough to open 2 Angel's Eggs. So we might start off there. I'll talk a bit about what Angel's Egg does in the deck and also show you these beautiful foils. So Angel's Egg is a 3-cost elite relic of Seraphic Transfixion. It's an artifact, so you can play it for 3. You don't need any particular threshold to be able to play it, so it costs 3 mana. So you can have 2 of them in your deck, and at the end of each turn, so that's both you and your opponent's turn, the controller of Angel's Egg's site heals 1 life. So it's not the controller of Angel's Egg, it's the controller of the site where the Angel's Egg is. It can be underground in the subsurface, it can be on the surface, but whatever the site is that it is on, the controller of that site heals a life at the end of each turn. So what this basically means is that if it's on your avatar on your site, which is usually going to be the case in the Deathspeaker deck, you're going to basically heal 2 life per turn cycle, which allows you to stay in the game against aggro decks, but it also allows you to offset the life lost from another card in the deck, Black Obelisk, which at the start of your turn, you lose 2 life and gain 2 mana this turn. So you get the mana ramp from the Black Obelisk, and you get to offset it with the Angel's Egg, giving you some life gain. So this beautiful foil Angel's Egg, which as I said, we're lucky enough to pull 2 of. I'll just be a little bit gentler actually. I'll take this out of the sleeve. So I'll take it from the back, try not to damage the foiling. So as you can see, gorgeous colouring. A little bit of darkness and opaqueness on the hands that are holding the egg, and then a gorgeous foiling on the egg itself. And as with all these foils, I know I say it in basically every video where I'm showcasing foils, but the effect comes through far more coloured and rainbowy on camera than it does in person, although there is a bit of a rainbow because this egg in this art does have a bit of an opal essence about it. It's got a bit of an opal look. And as you can see on the art there on the back, it does have that sort of blue opaly tinge on that egg. But yeah, it's a fantastic piece of art, and you can see, you can't quite see because it's quite dark, but there is a figure that is holding, there's sort of a face at the bottom facing towards the artist, or towards you when you're holding the card, which you can't really see quite so clearly in the card version. It just sort of looks like a bit of a blur, and then these 2 hands holding the egg. Whereas when you look at that full art version, there is that figure down there, and there's also sort of a little red dot. Not sure what that's about. It sort of looks like a little berry or something down in the bottom corner here. Anyway, so that is the Angel's Egg. We've got 2 of those, very lucky to have 2, and they are a beautiful centerpiece part of this particular deck. Then we've got the absolutely gorgeous foil Ruby Core. So this, I must say, when I opened this in a pack, I did have a bit of a fist pump, I should say, and a bit of a moment of excitement. There is something very, very special about pulling a unique foil, let alone a unique foil like the Ruby Core, which has this beautiful artwork, incredible foiling with the grey-black background, and then this bright coloured fire, and then the Ruby Core in the middle. It is just a beautiful foil. And on the back, we've got the, very gently, take a look at the full art from Melissa Benson there. So absolutely beautiful on the Ruby Core there. So the cores, we've got the Ruby Core, the Onyx Core, and the Amethyst Core in the deck. And their role is to provide some additional mana ramp. So we get the mana ramp from Amethyst Core, Ruby Core, Onyx Core, Philosopher's Stone as well. And because we're playing 3 colors, we can potentially get 3 mana per turn from Philosopher's Stone, which for those of you who, again, may not be aware of exactly what Philosopher's Stone does, it says the first spell of each element cast by the bearer each turn costs 1 mana less. So because we're playing 3 different elements, we can get a discount of 1 on potentially up to 3 spells we cast per turn. So the first fire spell, the first air spell, and the first earth spell we cast every turn will get a 1 mana discount. And the Philosopher's Stone only costs 1, and we can summon it into the hands of our avatar and have it waiting there to be used every single turn. So a very powerful card, and that explains why it is commanding such a high price at the moment on the secondary market. So some other foils that we'll run through and take a look at this. Minor Explosion, Violymp, the Frank Frazetta foil, very, very lucky and glad to have that one. Apprentice Wizard, and we've got a little Craterize hiding down here as well. And I think once we get to the sight portion of this deck, you'll see we're very lucky to have quite a few foils in there as well. So this was one that I pulled in the previous box opening video that I did, and it is just an incredibly special looking foil. The orange glow, I'll take it out of the sleeve so we can see it a little bit better. But the orange glow of that fire around the explosion is just so textured and beautiful. And the darkness of the actual comet or meteor, whatever it is that's falling to destroy the site, the darkness and the contrast of that with the explosion underneath is just fantastic. And in person, it really pops. And of course, Craterize, one of the biggest, splashiest spells in the alpha set, with that huge 10 damage at the point of impact, as well as the significant damage on all the sites around it on the grid there. Big 8 mana splashy spell, and certainly one that it's nice to have in foil. And there you have, of course, the full art from Marta Molina on the back. So the next one I wanted to showcase is the Apprentice Wizard. Again, an iconic card from the alpha set. For those of you who've watched that top 16 match, the Apprentice Wizard is a key part of what this deck is trying to do, particularly if you can get it on a Geistwood. But even if you just banish it from your cemetery using the Deathspeaker's ability, the value that it gives you and the card advantage, basically drawing you 2 cards at minimum, and really is the engine room of the deck. And having one in foil, it's incredibly nice. The figure in the front, the wizard itself, is almost fully opaque, but then you've got the foil coming from all around that beautiful background in the artwork. So that is one that I'm very, very happy to have in foil for sure. And with 4 copies in the deck, always looking to pick up more in foil. So the next one that I wanted to showcase is a very, very special Frank Frazetta art. Iconic fantasy artist Frank Frazetta has done only, I think, 4 pieces of his art are included in the alpha set, and then 1 in the pledge pack. So Violymp is the only one that's at ordinary, and then the other 3, 2 of which are actually in this deck, are at unique rarity. We've got the Ruler of Thule, the Courtesan Thais, and the Death Dealer, the latter 2 which are in this deck, and then the Violymp being the 4th at ordinary. So very lucky to have this Violymp foil. Shimmers beautifully. Again, the opacity, the contrast that they've done. Each of these foils was done individually by Eric's Curiosa to make sure that it has that beautiful opacity and 3D effect, and it has come out really, really well. And there's that full Frank Frazetta art on the back. It just looks fantastic. And I think that's another thing that I wanted to reflect on broadly about the alpha set and all these decks is thank you, Eric, and the team, because you've just done a fantastic job. The card quality is wonderful. The foils really are some of the best that I've seen in TCGs, probably the best, honestly, that I've seen in TCGs. The mix of this stamped foil, that sort of textured cold foil feel, and then the incredible rainbow foiling. But as much as anything else, the card quality and the opacity and the contrast in the rainbow foiling, and then the full art on the back, really just, I think, takes it over the edge and takes it to another level in terms of how special it is as a card. And to have that on every single card in the set, you know, to have that effort and that care put in for each of these ordinaries and, you know, up to the rarest uniques, really says a lot about how seriously the team took the product and how seriously they took the art and the project that they were trying to embark upon. So I've been through the foils. A couple of cards that I just wanted to call out quickly. One is Courtesan Thais, which I didn't have in the previous version because it wasn't available on Tabletop Simulator. The other one, of course, is Nimbus Djinn, our combo finisher. Have a quick look at that. And then, let's see, anyone else we want to have a look at here? No, we'll take a look at Death Dealer, the other Frazetta. So we'll very quickly close out the spellbook with these 3 cards. So of course, Death Dealer, 7 cost, 4 power minion, Genesis, kill all other minions. Kills things in the subsurface, the surface, in the void, everywhere. Incredibly powerful effect. Always happy to have that in the deck, and very glad that I managed to pull one of those in my first few boxes. Courtesan Thais, 5 cost, 0 power, unique. Genesis ability, during their next turn, each player is controlled by the previous one. So what this means is the turn you play it, if it's on your turn, which it probably will be, you then get to control your opponent's next turn, but then they get 2 turns in a row. But the incredibly powerful use for this, the way that it really breaks your opponent's back, is if you play it on the turn you also put them to death's door, and you have a way to make them kill themselves by attacking you with their avatar on their next turn that you control. So if you can have a minion of yours adjacent to their avatar, put them to death's door, or you know that they have a direct damage spell or something in hand, of course, but assuming that you don't know that, get them to death's door, have a minion adjacent, play this, you then control them during their turn, and you can make their avatar attack your minion whilst it's at death's door, and then it will die. So it's one of the only ways I think that you can guarantee, like absolutely guarantee the win by taking 2 turns in a row when you don't yet have your opponent at death's door. And that's something that really gets around the death's door mechanic in a way. You know, it's not foolproof in that it takes a bit of setup to get there, and you do have to have the 5 mana to do this in addition to other ways to get them to death's door. But assuming you can meet those conditions, this means that you're definitely going to be winning that game, which is very powerful. And then, of course, Nimbus Djinn, the combo finisher, 6 cost, discard a spell, deal 3 damage to another random unit here, in combination with Summoning Sphere, which allows us to summon it wherever we want on the board, even on top of our opponent's avatar. For 1 mana, you may summon minions to affected sites. It affects 4 sites, but all we need is 1. We get the Djinn down, we discard our whole hand, and we deal, as long as we've got 7 cards, 21 damage to the opposing avatar. So in 1 turn, 7 mana, and 7 cards in hand, other than these 2, we can get our opponent down from 20 to 0. So that's the end of the spells. I hope you enjoyed that little showcase and look at this beautiful deck that I'm very proud and very happy to have put together. I'll be continuing to try and foil out the spells, but before we finish up, let's take a quick look at the sites. Alright, so in the sites portion of the deck, I've actually been lucky enough to cobble together a few more foils probably as a proportion of the deck so far. Part of the reason for that is that we've got quite a number of basic sites in this deck. So we've got the 2 basic deserts, then we've got the 2 basic villages, and the 3 basic towers, all of which I've managed to pick up in foil at the moment, which is pretty cool. I've also managed to pick up a couple of foil dual lands. Out of our 9 total dual lands, we've got 2 out of 9, so we're getting there. There's still a bit of space to go. Then we've got the River of Flame and the Vesuvius on the fire side, the Holy Ground on the earth side, and then the Geistwood as our unique neutral site that doesn't provide any elemental threshold. So we'll take a look at some of these foils, take you through. I think we've already had a look at a Gothic Tower in the Battle Mage deck, so we'll look at these other 2 towers, take a look at the deserts, and the 2 dual sites, and the villages. Hoping that we can pick up some of the other foils as we keep going on our journey through Sorcery Alpha. But let's take a look at these foils for now. So we've got the gorgeous Humble Village from Andrea Modesti, which we'll grab out very carefully from the sleeve, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. Yellow, green, and those sort of pastoral colors all around the bottom, and then that bright shiny rainbow at the top as the sky glints. It just looks fantastic. And then of course the full art on the back. It's a beautiful piece of artwork, and you can really tell Andrea Modesti's distinctive style. I think Eric's done a great job. It's mainly Earth cards, the exception to which is, I think, the Highland Falconer in Air, and maybe one or two others. But in the main, Andrea's work that's showcased in the Alpha set is in the Earth element, which means that when you look across a number of Earth cards, whether it's all of these basic sites or some of the iconic cards like House Arn Bannerman and Albspine Pikeman, you really start to see a distinctive Earth style emerging in one of the elements, which is pretty cool. So we'll take a look at the back there. And I do apologize for some of the shadows and some of the issues with the camera quality. This is a bit of a rudimentary setup we've got going on here. Hope you're still enjoying the Sorcery Showcase that we're able to put on here from Alpha. I really was excited to try and show you guys some of the things that I'd picked up. You know, I've been spending a lot of time sorting and opening packs and putting these decks together. So I really wanted to give you a chance to enjoy them with me as we go through, even if the camera quality and the lighting might not be the best. So there's the Ruins. This is one of my favorite foils, actually. I really love the way that the light glints off the dual elements at the bottom, the beautiful tower in the middle, and the dark brooding sky above. And then, of course, that fantastic full Dan Seagrave artwork. It reminds me, it's quite sci-fi almost, the Ruins artwork, isn't it? It's got a bit of a, if you imagine like Dune or Blade Runner almost as well, if it was given a hand-painted treatment. I can imagine that artwork could find itself in there. So then we've got the Step next, another beautiful piece of art from Andrea, still sticking in that Earth element, as I was saying earlier. Even though it's a dual-sided, it has a bit of that fire to it. We've still got those knights moving out from their encampment in the artwork there, really tying into a lot of the Earth themes. And that beautiful bright sunshine as well, which I'm trying to capture in the foil there. Shining from the middle of the art. And there it is in all its splendid glory on the back of the card. So that's the Step. Then, next up we've got the Remote Desert from Aronja Art. An artist who I think was discovered on Instagram recently, Rafaela Chech, I think it was. So she's done some incredible artwork for the Alpha set, including these deserts, which are very, very evocative. Got those pyramids in the background, just some really sort of classic desert fantasy vibes there. And then the full art on the back. Just really, I don't know, like schmick hand-painted artwork that the lines, the light, everything about it just, it screams accomplishment to me. So it's like, this is just a really nice piece of art to look at. Similarly, the Arid Desert as well. A little bit more of a Utah vibe to it almost, this one, New Mexico. A little bit different to the Egyptian vibe in the first one. But still, beautiful, beautiful art. And then on the back, the full art version. It's almost like what you get on the back of these foils is an artist proof. You know, you're almost getting, you get your game piece on the front, so you can play it in your deck and everyone knows what it does. You get the beautiful foiling, the foil stamp, and then on the back, you get this full art, no game information, nothing else to cloud it, just a beautiful piece of artwork. And these towers from Michael Nagipal as well. I should mention some of my favorite cards in the game because of the power that they have at ramping out your plays. But I love the pastel colors in the sky on this lone tower in particular. And then the dark, brooding, dark tower as well. Not only are they fantastic cards in the game, but they're also absolutely beautiful pieces of art. So thanks to Michael for his work in putting these ones together. Wow. Yeah, just dark and brooding, and still picking out those pastel themes along the horizon as well, which I love from the Lone Tower. but just with that more dark, brooding sky. And really, as I said, I think in the previous video about the Battle Mage, the blues on the dark blue sky in this really in person are something else. Like, they are quite stunning. It's one of the more beautiful color profiles that I've seen on a trading card. So if you do get your hands on a Dark Tower, I do encourage you to do so and take a good look at it. So there we have it. That is the sights from the Deathspeaker deck. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile and the deck tech and just the showcase of some of these cards in person. I'm so excited to have them in hand. I'm so grateful to the full Eric's Curiosa team. Shout out to Simon as well, who's done an incredible amount of work, I know, trying to make sure my pledge gets here, despite a couple of hiccups along the way. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. Thank you to the Eric's Curiosa team for putting together such a fantastic game. If you do want to support the channel, you can simply like the video, you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of our future episodes, or you can support the channel as a member, which we very much appreciate the financial support of our members. I think it's about $3 a month. It's a small contribution, but a really meaningful one for us, and it helps to fund the videos that we create and just support the work that we do to try and bring you some fun and exciting content about the games we love. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.